Well, welcome once more to my show. Glad to have you out there. Always a pleasure to be here. I have two distinguished gentlemen, and the city should be very grateful and proud that we do have them. They're both school committeemen. I'm the forward of a school committee. They've been on for a number of years. They're doing a fine job. And when I mean fine job, they do pay attention. If you watch the school committee meetings, you'll find that these two that I have on my show do pay attention. And well, because they have the concern of the school system in their hearts, the students, whether the students are doing good or not. So we're going to get right into some of the issues facing the school committee at this time. As you know, this is just after the election, and they were, of course, re-elected. And there are things that are going on in the sense that, well, whether the superintendent is going to stay or not. Well, she applied for a job in Barnstable, and as reported, one of the finalists. Doesn't mean she's going to get the job. Doesn't mean if she gets the job, she'll stay. But well, anyway, Mr. Martins, Joseph Martins, school committee man, and Gabe Andrade. Congratulations, re-elected quite easily. That's a sign of the public has confidence in you, and that's good for the city and good for the school committee. So let's get into what's going on with the superintendent issue. Some people want it to stay, and some people apparently think that, well, if she goes, she goes.
Well, that's essentially that's exactly where it is. What I have heard, and that doesn't mean what you see is not always what you get, but what I have heard is that she claims that even if she does not get the Barnstable job, that she's still going to be looking, that she will not be staying here.
But her contract is over, is finished in the end of December, so if she doesn't get the job...
No, actually in July.
Oh, next July.
July, yes.
Okay, so...
June 30th of 2017.
All right,
which is at the end of this academic year.
Why is December? Maybe I've missed...
I'm not sure why the application in December. I don't know whether in Barnstable. I don't know whether the person is leaving at the half year there. It does seem like a strange time for them to hire. However, the way it works with her contract extends to July 31st. We have to give her essentially a year's notice, which we did, or close, not quite a year's notice. We had to tell her in September whether we were going to negotiate a new contract with her.
And did you tell her?
Oh, that was just negotiate the contract.
Correct. So we said we were negotiating a contract with her.
If negotiations weren't successful, that's fine. I mean,
So,
there would be no contract.
Price, I'm sure, was part of the negotiation, or...
Among other things.
Yeah.
Well,
Now,
I
the
think it's
school committee has the authority whether to hire a superintendent or not.
It's one of the few authorities that the school committee
City
actually
council
does
has
have.
nothing to do with it.
No.
correct.
So her contract is not over until July 31st, is that it?
Yes.
June 31st.
Oh, June 30th.
June 30th.
June 30th, right.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
And when is this going to, in other words, stop as far as...
Well, I think it's public knowledge that I prefer to have another superintendent.
All right.
In there. While there has been some improvement in the schools, and that's what's been pushed on to the public of the success of some of the schools, but what's not made public is what schools are not improving. As a district, we're not improving. Some schools,
general.
right. Some schools are, absolutely, and the faculty and the administration of those schools should be commended for, the schools that have improved. However, as a district, and the superintendent is the supervisor of the entire district, not just those schools that improved.
Yeah.
And as a result, the district, as a district, has not improved.
Now, why would the Chamber of Commerce, I guess their board of directors or executive board, has come out publicly saying that they think the city should do all it possibly can to keep the superintendent?
Well, I would assume that they buy the hype. And interestingly enough, Ed Costa, who was just won election to the board for the first time, had a letter in the Herald News just this weekend, which really put that in perspective. And he talked about how statistically, the statistics, you can read almost whatever you want into the statistics. You can read good story, bad story. Schools are improving. How much are the schools improving? And that's where the question becomes a little bit more nebulous.
So if you're batting .222, and the following, and then by the end of the season you're batting .231,
you're doing well.
You improved.
You improved quite a bit. Yes.
That's not. .222 to .231 is an improvement. But
that's essentially.
Is it an improvement that people would expect? Is an improvement that the school district should expect?
I can't accept the improvement that the general populace should accept. The Department of Education stated back years ago when there was no child left behind.
Yeah.
Everybody is going to achieve 100% proficiency. That was physically impossible to do. So it was changed now to having 100%, and where are you in 2011? Okay, this is where you're at 2011. Between that 100% and the 2011, this is called a gap. And by 2017, you're supposed to cut this gap in half, right? Well, that's not happening.
All right.
As a district, that's not happening.
Now,
in the meantime, they've come up with a different measure. At one time, they went strictly by scores, raw scores, which is what Joe refers to as a CPI. However, now the state has gone toward what they call a growth index. So in other words, they measure the growth. So going back to the guy batting .222 and ending up at .231. So you look at the percentage increase, even though he's doing poorly to begin with, but the percentage increase, that is a very high percentage increase. So that's why you get the people tout how our growth rate is the greatest in the state. But if you're hitting 200 and you end up hitting 220, you have a phenomenal growth rate, but it doesn't mean you're hitting well.
but you're not at the level of other districts in the
Absolutely.
state. And that's where the area problem seems to lie.
Well, that's
correct?
that part, as compared to other similar schools, that is the percentile, the overall percentile, okay? And I don't understand how the Department of Education has measured the actual levels, like level 1, level 2, level 3. All right. Doran is considered a level 1 school, but yet its percentile ranking is 34.
In the
Now,
state.
I'm sorry?
In the state.
Yeah, now.
That's a low ranking.
Yes.
Right, that means that there's 66% of the schools that are similar to Doran are doing better. Now, if you take an exam and you get a 34, did you pass that exam or did you fail the exam?
No,
I don't know, I don't understand how that is being done.
It's all done by growth. It's not raw score, it's growth.
Is the school system growing then? Maybe that is more easily understandable by the audience. Has the school system in general, school district, improved sufficiently over the years that it's been measured, or recent years?
Joe probably has a better handle
As a
on that.
reason, I've plotted that over time. I've plotted it since about 1980, early 1980s. All right, I plotted the scores, and it's not. It's relatively flat.
Flat.
If that goal of cutting the gap in half, if that is the actual goal, that's what the Department of Education said. By June 2017, June 30th, 2017, all schools will achieve the goal of cutting that gap in half. Right? Well, we're not going to make that goal, and I've made that statement many times. We're not
Now,
going to make it.
Let me ask you this question. I want to get this cleared up. A passing grade now in the schools district, I call it system. A passing grade is what?
65.
It's 65. It wasn't dropped down to 60.
It was.
It was, but it was, we recently, within the last year, Joe?
Yes.
Actually raised it back up to 65.
Okay, so it's back to 65.
Correct.
All right. Now, a lot of controversy about MCAS. Is that going to be around, or has that been diluted already? What is the status of MCAS?
My understanding is that over time, they've actually adjusted the MCAS test to reflect a lot of the Common Core curriculum that they've had. So this is just a further revisal of the MCAS test to be more PARC than MCAS. So it's actually
What is PARC?
PARC is the new test done by the Pearson Company, which is conforms to the Common Core standards.
When you say Common Core standards, are we
That's
talking
you have to go back some. We had the MCAS test. Okay,
Right.
that was derived after about 3 years of work on the part of a whole bunch of educators, and to develop the MCAS test, which was considered to be an excellent test. Right. Well, the federal government put out a big chunk of money in front, and many states, including Massachusetts, said,
Couldn't
"Ooh,
resist that.
yeah, absolutely so. That money is like a big pot of gold. Wow."
It's like apple pie to a starving man.
Correct. And it was the Commissioner of Education, the Secretary of Education, and Governor Duvall were the three people that authorized the Department of Education to grab some of that money. But by some of that money, you had to go through you had to adopt this new curriculum called Common Core.
Well, let me ask you this before you continue. Was that a good idea to take the money? Was that a benefit to the educational system in Massachusetts, or was that just, let's grab the money and we'll see what happens after?
I think it probably was exactly what you said. Let's grab the money and we'll play it by ear as it comes up. I don't think it was a good decision. The curriculum was not put together, unlike the original MCAS, it was not put together by people who
Professional
actually taught.
educators?
Correct. There was no one involved who had any experience with child development. So what you find is at the beginning end, it's really too advanced for the children. It's kids can only do what they're ready to do developmentally, and they're trying to push a lot of things on kids at early grades that many of them can't do. But at the older ages, if you fast track over to the high school level, then the complaints that the math curriculum is weak and even English. I've seen some of the things that they've talked about in terms of the English curriculum, where they've cut back the amount of literature that is used. They want factual writing. Well, you know, I may not be the greatest expert on education, but I learned an awful lot through fiction. You know, not just the fiction itself, but a lot about history or about psychology or whatever, just through fiction, and had more fun learning it that way.
Well, let me ask you, Joe, what is the solution in a sense? You've been an educator just about all your life in a sense. Superintendent of Diamond, you taught at Diamond, now you're on a school committee. What is the solution in the sense that someone's going to, you have students that are in, say, the 4th grade, and of course, you know, how do you get them to advance to the 5th grade? You have they spend a year in 4th grade, they study, they take tests, there are other things that show whether they have the, you know, the intelligence, etc. How do you get them over to 5th grade? What is the way? Or 6th, 7th, 8th?
The programs need to capture the student's interest. If it's not of interest to the student, whether you're a 3rd grader or whether you're an 8th grader, student is not going to pay attention. Now, you have to have multiple means in which to provide the knowledge to the student. That's why I'm constantly pushing to have career awareness programs in middle schools. There's got to be something that, you know, when you're in elementary school, grade 2, 3, 4, little Johnny, what do you want to be? Oh, I want to be a policeman.
Fireman,
I want to be a fireman. I see those red trucks flying back and forth, right? I want to be this. Or little Susie, I want to be a nurse. My mommy is a nurse. That sort of thing, okay? Well, then even some schools are even going back to the elementary just to have the students write a little bit about what they think they want to be.
Just put it on a piece of paper?
Yeah, a little.
Simple as that. Here's a piece of paper and a
paragraph.
pencil, and just write it down.
Yeah, and then it goes on. Now you're into middle schools. At middle school, you have professionals coming in and speaking to small groups of kids about their profession. Some kids are going to say, oof, I don't want to be that. But some other professional coming in, ooh, wow, I think I'd like to be that in there. And then going into high school, and this is where I'm constantly, I get on my soapbox, where I'm constantly saying, look, Durfee needs to have additional programs that are career-related in it, because...
Vocational, more vocational, mix...
But not like Diamond.
But mix something in?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes.
In other words, maybe a little hands-on work in the class.
Yes.
Not a vocational school, but maybe this kid has, he doesn't have interest in, English or this or that, but
Yeah.
boy, he can put things together.
I keep hopping on Fred TV. Now, Durfee has a similar setup.
Yeah.
That's right. Even though we're at BCC, and I thank you and BCC for having this program. But there are high school kids operating the equipment. Behind that screen there is college kids operating the equipment. And indeed, if you would combine that program, Fred TV, with other programs that support it, you could then have a 2-period per day program that is approvable as a Chapter 74 vocational education, getting a lot more money.
Okay, let me ask you this. I hear this constantly. My kid does not understand the new math. I don't understand the new math. I was taught 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 4 is 8, on and on. You learn your addition tables, your subtraction tables, multiplication, division, and well, lo and behold, you know something about mathematics as we understand mathematics to be in the world. And along came so-called modern math, and parents confused, students. Is that the case?
Yes.
Is that the real? Okay.
Absolutely.
That's the real case.
That's the real case.
Why does it, is it continuing? And if it is, why? What sense is coming out of this?
I guess some people think they know more about education than everybody else. I don't know. They claim that with this new math that you actually get to understand, the process much better. But if I can think back to when I was in high school, I used to think I was terrible in math. My grades would fluctuate wildly. I might hit a topic that I was pretty good at, and then the next topic I just couldn't seem to do well. And what I found out later, after I got into college, was I wasn't really that bad, because at some point it clicked. And it didn't. In high school, it just didn't. The connections just weren't made. But later on, the same things that I couldn't seem to understand when I was in high school, all of a sudden, seemed easy. I developed. And the connections were made. I was able to understand. And it's not that teachers back then in high school didn't explain exactly what the process was. The theory and the process.
Yeah.
We knew what it was.
Let me ask, Joe, resiliency schools. How many resiliency schools are there in the city?
2.
And what is the purpose of a resiliency school?
One is the RPS High School, Resiliency Prep School, High School, which I think, it's my understanding, it has about 150 students in it. And then there is an RPS Middle School. Both of those are for students that do not seem to be able to function in a regular classroom.
All right, so they're put into the resiliency school. There's one across from the Rock Street courthouse. The old.
Both of them are there.
Both of them.
Oh,
yeah.
both
They
of them.
share the same building.
Oh, I see. Okay, and so those are not really, in other words, students with a little trouble learning, etc., might not be keeping
Oh,
up.
no, some of those kids are bright.
Oh, I see.
They're bright kids.
Yeah.
The only thing is, what's being offered is not of my interest, and therefore they cut up. And they just can't function in that regular setting. They need something different.
So it's like the old days, a kid was going to Sturpey, but all he had on his mind all day long was how to fix cars. He was in the wrong school. He needed to be in Diamond.
Similar, but not exactly.
Plus, I'm sure that there are many more complexes too that they have. There are a number of behavior problems, but the lack of interest certainly is an issue.
Okay, and then on top of that, there's a behavior
Oh,
problems.
absolutely.
All right, so they go over to the resiliency school. Let me get to this other topic. Now, I've mentioned this years ago, and maybe other people have. Bristol County, with all its schools, et cetera, and school committees, and all their elections for the school committees, and the number of superintendents they have, Bristol County has, what would be an advantage if there was one superintendent for the whole Bristol County school system? And I don't mean into we'll say the micro managing of each and every school in the system, but more so along the lines of maybe, for an example, purchasing books, supplies, payroll, a number of things that might contribute to a cost reduction.
They might even be able to have a savings in personnel also in terms of administration. They might not need quite as many administrators in total. If you total up all the administrators in every system in the county.
That's in other states, large states, physically large states. A county superintendent is quite common.
Okay.
Quite common. Here in Massachusetts, it's called turf.
It's jurisdiction.
Absolutely so. Don't step in my turf. I don't want my students to be associated with your students. We want control over here versus, and you have it, you take care of it. I don't care about you. I don't care about over here. That's called turfism.
Well, why I mention that, and I've thought about it, is that, let's say, all the books in Bristol County were purchased by the county. So you have history books that get distributed to all the 5th graders or 8th graders. And every 8th grade in a county has the same history book. And the teachers who are teaching history book are encouraged to be somewhat on the same page, in a sense. So, you know, if Fall River's on page 50, why should, you know, Somerset be on page 60 or 70? So that if a student transfers from Fall River to New Bedford or Taunton, they can pretty much pick up the same, in the same area that they left off with from the school that they just left.
Well, you have a similar concern right nearby in Somerset, where you have the Somerset Berkeley High School in there, but the elementary grades are separate. And there's a superintendent for the elementary grades in Somerset. There's a superintendent for the elementary grades in Berkeley. In there. And why not one? For, you know, for all of it. But again, it's the issue of the town or, you know, the community. I want control over my own children.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to have you back on the program. We're running out of time. One last thing. Any prediction in regards to the school system?
Oh, we'll eventually get there.
Okay. Gabe, any prediction about anything in regards to the school system?
Well, all I can say is I think things may be different starting with the new school committee the next January.
And you get sworn in January, what date?
I'm not sure. It's early.
All right, so we'll have a new school system, I mean, some new members on the school committee, some new members on the city council, and of course, another new mayor.
That's it. That's
All right, I hope you enjoyed the program, and you have 2 fine gentlemen here. I'm sure if you have any questions, you can always call Mr. Martins or Mr. Andrade. We'll be happy to explain anything you want to know about what's going on in Fall River in the school department. So thank you out there for watching, and I'll see you next time.